So what I'm going to show you guys how to do is to create your arch in GeoGebra. One thing I want you to keep in mind though is that all of the numbers that I use will be different than the numbers that you use. This is just an example. So you'll need to change your side lengths with a given measure, and you'll need to change your angles accordingly. Another thing I do want to say is any moment during this video, you should feel free, and I encourage you actually, to stop and try to figure out how to do this on yourself. This is challenging, that's why I'm making a video, but I do think it's important for you guys to maybe kind of play around with the tools. So to get started, my block, the length of the longer base, is going to be 22.57 centimeters. And of course, GeoGebra doesn't really measure centimeters, so we can just use units, which I'm going to accept. But I'll just go up here and I'll click the down arrow, I'm going to choose segment with given length. I'll just go ahead and click really anywhere. I'll enter in 22.57 and click OK. Alright, so I can't really see where this goes right now, but what I'm going to do is I will zoom out a little bit. I can use this Move Graphics view, go over and click here. Also, if you have your axes and your grid on, you can keep it on, but I would say once it starts to come together, it might look a little bit better if you turn them off. Definitely turn them off by the final project that you'll print. Okay. So let's think about a couple of things we know about an isosceles trapezoid. The first thing we know is that the bases are parallel and that the base angles are congruent. So if you don't know what that means, you'll be able to figure it out as I continue to build this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the acute base angles. So what that would be is, if you see my cursor, it's going to be this angle down here and this angle down here. So of course, what I need to do is I need to create an angle. So if you're somebody who wants to try to figure out how to do this without watching the whole video, I encourage you to pause now, go and choose some sort of angle tool and play around with it. One thing before you do that, it's important that once you select a tool, you hover your cursor over it. It'll tell you exactly how to use that tool. So if you're going to watch the video, this is how you do it. I go up here. I'm not going to select angle, but instead I want to choose angle with given size. This tool is actually a little confusing, so if you did try to do this by yourself, maybe you struggled. You knew what to do but didn't know how to use the tool. So it tells me to select a leg point, then vertex, then enter the size. If I want my angle to be down here with vertex A, then what I need to do is I need to click point B, then point A, and enter in a certain degree measure. So I know that because what I'm going to do is build a 9-block arch, I've already gone through and calculated all my angle measures. So in order to do this, you need to make sure part 1 of your project's done, but I'll go ahead and enter in 80 degrees. Counterclockwise or clockwise, what that means is it's going to say whether that angle is going to open up or if that angle is going to open down. If we look over here at point A, if I select counterclockwise, it would open up because this direction here, you see me kind of moving with my cursor, that's counterclockwise. So I'm going to change this here, change it to clockwise, select OK. I have a nice 80-degree angle, and what's important to also realize is that if I zoom out down here, point B prime, if I connect this segment, or excuse me, point A to point B, that will create the exact 80-degree angle. I can't just take a random segment and just pretend to overlap it. It'll be off by very, very small margin of error. Okay, so I need another 80-degree angle over here with vertex B. So using the given angle tool, which I still have highlighted, I'm going to select point A, then point B. And now I need to think, do I want this to be clockwise or counterclockwise? Another time, be a good moment to pause the video and think for yourself. So, in fact, I am going to use counterclockwise. And so if you think about it, from point B, this kind of arcing motion that I'm making with my mouse, this would be a counterclockwise rotation, so that'll work. Awesome. So this is a little tricky from here. I just might end up playing around with it. Please excuse me if I do make a mistake, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. So now what I'm going to do is, and one thing I did forget to say already, is I'm creating a 9-block arch. The length from outer to outer is 130 centimeters, and the length from inner to inner is 70 centimeters. You maybe would have been able to figure that out by yourself as I continue to do this. But knowing that, what I can then figure out is that the length from A down to B needs to be 30. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm not going to make it 30 because that's just going to be so massive. So I'm just going to make it 10 instead. Oh, never mind. No, I have to make it 30. Okay, excuse me. So I'm going to make this 30. So it's just going to be kind of a big looking arch or a big looking block. I'll take my line tool. Where is this? Oh, it's over here. My line tool. And I'll just connect point A to B prime and point B to B prime. So if I were to go ahead, I think if I were to go ahead and just connect A prime and B prime, I would have an isosceles trapezoid. But the problem is that the length of the shorter base wouldn't be exactly what I want it to be. I want that length to be 12.5, or excuse me, 12.15. So in order to figure out how long 12.15 is, the length of the leg, right? The length of each of the legs is going to affect the length of the short base. So this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a leg with length 30. So if you want to go ahead and try to pause the video again and try to figure out how to do this, you should. And my hint to you is you need to use the circle tool, not the given segment length tool. So go ahead and try to think about how to do that. You can pause it if you want. So like I said, you're going to use the circle tool, or one of the circle tools, and it's actually this one, circle with center through point, I believe. No, it's not. It's circle with center and radius. So the key to this is that the radius will help you. If I choose that A is going to be the center of my circle, I know I want the radius to be 30. Go ahead and click enter. Now, think about how that actually helps you, right? Because now I know that if A is the center of my circle, where it intersects down here is going to be a length of 30. That's just my radius. I need to use my point tool to label the intersection of the circle and this line I created. So when you do want to label an intersection, you got to be patient. Make sure that both are bold. And if you actually see, I have a little caption that pops up that says circle D and line B. So I know if I click, I'll have the intersection. So I go ahead and click. Now, just so that I don't have so much going on, right? It might be tricky for you at this point to figure out where in the world is this this trapezoid. On the left-hand side, what I want to do is maybe just kind of click off some of these things. And if you don't have this left-hand column, you need to go up here to View and then select Algebra. Okay, but I already have it, so I'm good. So I'm going to conic, that just means like circle. So I'm going to click this off, and I'm going to go ahead and actually create another circle with a center point B and another radius of 30. Repeat the process by using my point tool. Remember, patience, because we want to have this little caption show up, or at least see that both of them are bold. So circle E and line C. A good shape there. Still repeating the process by clicking off this circle. And now we know that points B prime and A prime are pretty much irrelevant. So let's click those off. A prime is off, B prime is off, and I'll keep the lines for right now. So if I were to connect C and D, and then I were to measure angle C and angle D, I really, really, really hope that they would be 100 degrees. And they should be if I've created this correct. So let's do that. Now I'm just going to use my segment tool. I'm going to connect like C and D. I should also hope that this is parallel to AB. And I don't need my given angle tool anymore. I just need my angle tool because the angle is already constricted. This is confusing, the angle tool. I don't have this on my computer, but you should. A lot of times people create angles and then they end up creating an angle that's over 180 degrees. They measure the wrong angle. So what I suggest that you do is over here in most people's computer, there's a little down arrow. And you should have maybe another little down arrow kind of where my mouse is. If you click it, you'll have a choice that says between 0 and 180. Go ahead and choose that. I don't have it. So I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to measure angle ACD to begin with, or just I guess we could just call that angle C. And to make sure I measure what I want to measure, I have to click the vertices in counterclockwise rotation. I don't know why they make it so confusing, but they do. So D, C, A, and it's 100. So I've done this correct. And just for the sake of it, I'll go ahead and I'll measure angle D or angle BDC. Still in the counterclockwise rotation, and that's 100 as well. So pretty much done. I'm close to being done with the hardest part of it. You'll be surprised by how fast the rest of this comes together. You don't have to create, if you're making, I'm making a 9-block arch, I don't need to do this 8 more times. But I will go ahead and choose my polygon tool, and now I'm going to go ahead and outline this. And remember to always go back and click back where you started. Okay, awesome. So now that I have my polygon, now I'll get rid of all this extra junk. So let's get rid of all these angles here on the left-hand side. Let's get rid of the lines. Let's get rid of these points, A and B. And what I like to do too, just so it looks a little bit neater, let's go ahead and get rid of my axes. And you notice when I double click in the space, it doesn't show up as a choice to turn off the grid or turn off the axes. The reason why is because I have the wrong tool highlighted. I have the polygon tool highlighted. Only way this is going to work is if you use the mouse tool, double click. Now I can turn it off. And then the last thing that you might want to do is go in and just, if you double click segment A, go to object properties, you can turn off the label. And I think this just looks neater, right? I don't know why it still says A. Let's try to figure that out. Show label. Turn this one off. Oh, the reason why it still says A is because that's a segment hiding behind that. Let's turn that off. So I'll turn all these off. And I can also turn off points C and D. And turn this off. Okay, great. So now I've created an isosceles trapezoid. I'm going to stop the video here just because it's getting so long, and then I'm going to show you how to finish the arch.